the record, inshallah. Yes. Could you speak up a little bit because sometimes I...
Assalamu
Alaikum salam.
I just wanted to know in terms of like percentages amongst the whole of the Muslims today, as in the Muslim Ummah, what would you say the percentages are like of the four main schools? So what is in the majority, and then who's second and who's third from the Hanafis, Shafis, Malikis and Hanbalis, just as a general question, just for...
Actually, there are no specific statistics done by modern scholars regarding this. But you can easily identify the Shafi'i mazhab in countries like Egypt, like Libya, the Maliki mazhab in countries like Morocco, the Hanafi mazhab in Southeast Asia, the Hanbali mazhab in certain areas of the Gulf such as Saudi Arabia. But there are no specific statistics about who is following what.
My question is it true that a Sayyid, and which Imam says that a Sayyid girl can't marry with another person? Man can marry if they are another, but if a girl is from Sayyid family, she can't marry.
From a Sayyid?
Yeah.
Oh, Seed in Southeast Asian culture, it means, ascribe to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Ya Sayyidati, Allah akrimik.
Because it's a matter of my friend's, marriage, and she is a Sayyid. It's affecting to her. It's affecting her friend, and they are from Pakistan, and they're saying that according to Sharia law, it says she can't marry with anyone.
Yes, I got your point. Jazakumullah khair. Yes. Any other question related to this?
I want explanation that I can go back and get explained.
Of course, you will go back and you will explain, inshallah. When the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam instructed us about marriage, there is a very famous hadith all of us might came across. تنكح المرأة لأربع. A woman is sought after for four reasons. لمالها, for her money, property. جمالها, for her beauty. لدينها, for her religion. لحسبها, for her lineage, for her family. فاظفر بذات الدين تربت يداك. Then be after the religious girl, otherwise your hands will stuck to dust. It's a figurative expression, meaning that you will be very poor. You will end up having no house, no property, no mount, no car, whatever. These are the qualities to look for in a spouse. The other way around, Mr. Right. I'm looking for Mr. Right, right? I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give you all Mr. Right and Miss Right. You are looking for Mr. Right on your part. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam prescribed the medicine as well. He said, I am a guardian of a family. I'm looking for a suitable match to my daughter. This is quite natural. What are the instructions of the Prophet? He told us, إذا جاءكم من ترضون دينه وخلقه فزوجوه إلا تفعلوا تكن فتنة في الأرض وفساد كبير. If somebody whom you know is religiously committed and is ethically fine and he came seeking marriage, you have to marry him. فزوجوه. It's an order. فزوجوه. Help him to get married. Otherwise, تكن فتنة في الأرض. You are planting a sedition in Allah's land. وفساد كبير. And a great amount of corruption. Was it of much significance about seeds and those who have lineage to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam would have told us that, look, don't marry from my family. Seek a religious woman outside my family household. Seek a religious person from outside the seed culture, that kind of maybe I would say it may reach the level of hallucination. My first name is El Said Amin, and the easiest way to pronounce it is Sayyid. And in Pakistani cultures, they would utter it Seed. And Amin means honest. So you'd always think that I'm having a special lineage, I'm attached to the Prophet, he is Seed and he is Amin. Yani when I arrived here in Walsall, the Imam was trying to praise and to appeal to the Holy, this is Seed and this is Amin. I told him, no, stop, I'm not from the family of the Prophet, I'm a normal human being. I go to the toilet like you, I have to eat siri like you. So that's really... and even when you are Seed, when you belong to the family of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, and you always do hallucinations and tell people, look, I have seen in my dreams that so and so will happen to you, people kiss your hands, kiss your gown, kiss your stick, that kind of, it is nonsense. It's really nonsense. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is reported to have instructed Fatima. Fatima is the lady, L-A-D-Y. Capital is the lady of the women in paradise. He addressed her saying, Fatima, اعملي فإني لا أغني عنك من الله شيئا. Fatima, you have to work hard. For on the day of judgment, you will be held accountable for your actions. Al-Abbas, you have to work hard. His uncle, or on the day of judgment, you will be held accountable for your actions. Khadija, you have to work hard. His wife, his beloved. By the way, the most beloved, she and Aisha, may Allah be pleased with them, mothers of the believers. You have to work hard. On the day of judgment, you will be accountable for your actions. This is the Prophet and this is his household. So look at our local interpretations, our cultural unstable explanation and unjustified. In my view, the Prophet said, أيأتين الناس يوم القيامة بأعمالهم وتأتون بنسبكم لرسول الله. People will come to me on the day of judgment having certain righteous actions, and you are coming just saying we are seeds, we belong to the family of the Prophet, no matter how sinful acts, zina, khamr, whatever we do, it will be forgiven. No, this is not acceptable. And if you are a real seed, if you are, what does seed mean? It means a strict follower. You bear the Prophet's name. When you bear the Prophet's name, you have to be a careful and very good interpreter of his sayings and actions. Yes, next. Please.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm under the assumption a Muslim man can marry someone who believes in one God, i.e. a Muslim, a Christian or a Jew.
Yeah.
But imagine, hypothetically, I marry a Christian woman, she believes in one God, and she has a spouse, she has a child. How would be the correct way or an appropriate way to bring up your child without causing friction between the two families? And but also you want to...
Yes. I got your point. I got you. Don't worry about that. When you are hungry and you go to Aldi, do you have Aldi here in Leicester? It's everywhere. Aldi's everywhere. And you have only £2 to have iftari. It's getting closer now. And you have £2, just £2. You will think of the basics of how to quench your thirst, maybe to go for 75p lemonade and have croissant. That's it. You don't have enough money to go for a full meal. So we call this I'm looking for the basics. But if you have plenty of money, you can go to a better store, or else you can pamper yourself by having a delivery or 5-star restaurant. No problem about that. My dear brother, that is exactly the case. It's not Aldi 5-star restaurant related issue, but Islam in this particular thing, Islam differentiates between the optimal situation and the another situations that might be necessitated by certain surrounding conditions. the basic situation, in principle, a Muslim man is allowed to marry a non-Muslim Christian or Jew, a chaste woman. She doesn't have a tainted past, right? So a Muslim man is allowed to marry a Christian or a Jewish lady who doesn't have a tainted past. She is a chaste. She was a chaste, but she's Christian and she's Jew. What's the evidence? It is there in the Quran. We are talking about the basics. In principle, it is permissible. And in principle, it is permissible for a man to marry a Muslim woman. So this is the case. But there is a difference between the idealistic situation and the situation you are allowed to do in principle. Right? In principle, I'm myopic, so I have to wear glasses. It's necessary for eyesight. But I'm trying to pamper myself. So I would go for maybe Ray-Ban, whatever. So, in principle, a Muslim is allowed, but the fact that he is allowed is not the ideal situation. Maybe you don't have Muslim sisters around in a certain area. Maybe you are married. Of course, some of the sisters might be unhappy with the issue of multiple marriages, so, right? But we may have a word about that and discuss this. No, there are certain conditions to have more than one for a man, because marriage has five rulings. Marriage is halal, but it can be haram. Marriage is halal, in principle, marriage is halal. But marriage itself, which is a halal act, it can be haram. It can be blameworthy, makruh. It can be wajib, it can be obligatory. We can discuss this later. But maybe you are away from your wife and you don't have a halal option. You are forced between committing zina and marrying a non-Muslim woman. Maybe different things. But if this is the ideal situation, no, it is not. The ideal situation is to follow the instructions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to marry a purely Muslim woman from a dignified family, for her wealth, for her dignity, for her beauty, for her religious commitment. And atop of all is the religious commitment. So that's why the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is overemphasizing this. So we have to differentiate between the ideal option and the fact that this option is permissible in principle. Yes, next question, please. Mr. Alaykum salam. Please speak up a little bit.
The example you gave of, for example, a Shafi'i man going to a Hanafi majority mosque,
Yes.
and praying in the Shafi'i style, and the Hanafi people accepting this, and it would be ideal. Is it not better that, for example, if I was to go to a Shafi'i mosque, then I adopt their style rather than bring in a different style? Is that not even more?
Yeah, it's more accommodating. For example, I'm leading a purely strict Hanafi kind of followers.
Yeah.
But for example, according to the Shafi'i, to the Hanafi mazhab, as I told you, reading from the Mus'haf during Taraweeh, invalidates your prayer. Invalidates your prayer. I can tell you lots of stories since I came to this country a few years ago. I was leading Taraweeh. Behind me was an imam who was having previous imam, ex-imam, you can say. And he was having a big issue with the whole community. Unfortunately, they fired him for some reason which I don't know. And there was a young, inspiring imam who was educated at Al-Azhar. We know each other, so he invited me to lead and to give lectures, same style I'm doing here. So I was leading, and one night there was sujood tilawa, and I forgot. I forgot sujood tilawa. It was a big issue. Really big issue according to the Hanafi, not according to the Hanafi madhab, because I'll tell you what's in the Hanafi madhab, but it was a big issue according to the Imam. He starts backbiting, telling the whole community over 2 days that their prayer behind me is invalid and it has to be repeated. And I started, people were smiling and shaking hands, they were getting along quite easily, and alhamdulillah, yani. But they started frowning and changing, and they were a bit reserved, and some people went to other mosques, and rumors started. It's destructive. Once you are not able to accommodate the differences, it is destructive. Once you are ignorant of your own school of thought, it is really destructive. I gathered the whole community and I told them, what makes you sad, my friends, my brothers? They told me it was because of so and so, and I addressed them saying, Ya Akhi al-Kareem, you have an issue with me, I was the leader. Why don't you come to me after the prayer and tell me that, look, you forgot sajda to tilawa and you didn't do it. You have to make up for sajda to tilawa, by the way, according to the Hanafi Mazhab. But according to certain other Hanafi views, when you forget sajda to tilawa and you go ahead with the obligatory sajda, i.e. the normal sajda in prayer, the normal sajda in prayer constitutes a natural make-up for the prostration of forgetfulness. So sajda to tilawa according to the Hanafi mazhab is obligatory. You have to do it. But what if you missed it? The obligatory sajda makes up for the frustration of sajda to tilawa. And I told him, Ya Akhi, go to Bada'i al-Sana'i fi Tartib al-Shara', and I have to embarrass him in front of the whole community. Indeed, I printed out the stuff from 21 Hanafi books. I printed out the stuff and I have to get a translator, and I told my other colleague, look, they may think that there is an issue between us, and I want an independent interpreter from among it was a predominantly Bangladeshi community. I asked for an independent interpreter, somebody who can speak Bengali and speak English quite very well, and he has to translate every single word. And then I showed him the truth, because he started blaming me for not doing the prostration of sajda to tilawa. So look at our approach. When you start backbiting, poisoning the minds of the people for no apparent reason, you are doing a nasty job. Yes.
Sorry, I actually don't feel my question was answered.
Yes.
I meant to ask. What I asked was how. Ideally, I understand in that ideal world, you married a Muslim
You need
girl.
to be.
What about the child? How would you bring up the child that came?
The child.
What would be most appropriate or the best?
You
way?
bring up your child according to the fact that there are 5 types of tomatoes at Asda supermarket, and there are 3 types of cucumber there in the market as well, and there are different types of clothes, and you have different fingers, and all of them are not equal. People are different in color. Flowers are different. We have blue, green, and so try to inculcate in your child's mind that diversity is a main feature of this religion. Tell him that we have shorter prayers, 4 units, we have 2 units, we have 3 units, okay? And tell him that within, when we apply these units, we tend to have different views, but these views are not necessary. Use a very simple, approachable, delicate language that is suitable to the mentality of the child. And in this way, I have a 2-year-old son, his name is Ziad, and I have reviewed many of the Islamic literature related to Islamic education done in Arabic, but unfortunately it doesn't appeal to me. I want solutions to the delicate questions and the and the very tough questions my child starts to ask. So I'm reading from the Western literature, but I'm trying to accommodate and try to adapt the Western literature to the Islamic way I'm bringing up my child, inshallah. If anybody has any suggestions regarding Islamic education in Western literature, is more than welcome to give me a reading list or so. I'm currently at a loss regarding this point, and this is my question to the whole brothers and sisters here. Yes. Yes. More questions?
Also, is at 6:30.
Yes, inshallah.
Fortunately, we have to conclude this. Thank you so much for offering so much of your time. Really, maybe a little kind of another hour. Yeah, I think.
So this is part about the message. And by the way, guys, there are 3 copies of the presentations here. If anybody is interested, it's free of charge, of course. And I have 3 articles, printed out articles. These are my fatwas. You can share them with anybody interested. These are my fatwas on Islam, and these are a couple of my articles. And this is the presentation. You can sort of when something is free. Yeah, we have 2 presentations. Yes, okay. This is the second. And so, okay, sister, I'll give you one of this presentation. Are you part of the...
How's the child?
So somebody who is not involved in the course, so these are not circulated by anyone.
Not giving it to anyone.
These are some articles. Sorry? Yes, this is a live position. I use this for the weekly. And this is what you need.
Oh, before, yeah, like the other day.
And these are examples of my cases. No, it is the same presentation, but I'll give it to you. Yes. Yeah, we need a group photograph, guys. Yeah, I'm really... Yes, maybe. Yeah, if... Yes. Yes. Yes, I know him, but he's really, he's from Syria. I'm from Syria originally. Do you live here? So, do you have any idea about certain books to read? Yes. Regarding the sister who was shooting and taking photographs, I need to have yes, okay, so let's go now, have a group photograph, maybe outside. Shall I leave my stuff? Where is the camera?
Photograph. You said outside? Outside? Oh, you can share the camera.
Leave his camera there.
Yes.
So you can tell your friend.
She got married.
With gloves. Yes. It should be iPod? Yes, you can have the iPod without gloves, because what's on the iPod is a digital file, it's not an actual. So she can have gloves and read. No problem. She can also spend more good time in zikr, remembrance of Allah, rather than actual prayer. Yes.
So if we just do the photo now, if anybody wants to just join the photos,
They run away.
straight outside.
Okay.
No, they're waiting outside.
Okay, we will be back.
And then we'll come back. And if anybody wants to ask any questions of the Sheikh, there's time.
Do you,
straight
are you
after.
sure we will be able to reach Birmingham in due time? Yes, inshallah. How can I get the photos? Because I'm free.
Have you got a message?
We'll do that.
Yes,
We'll do that.
okay.
Sheikh, we'll do all of
Let's
that.
hit for Asr prayer, inshallah. And I can answer questions while
Do you want to? Should we take this photography after?
maybe, yes.
That might be better. The timing. This was
Yes.
You know, I think
stopped.